Good morning, everybody, and a happy Monday morning to you. You guys know we have a lot to cover. Harry's been running his mouth. We also have, of course, the fabulous royals. We had Anzac Day. We have a lot to cover. So let's just jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We are going to start off today. This is so cool. Their Tatler magazine is doing Prince William, a King in Waiting. It's their June issue, and it celebrates William with a new portrait that was done. Now, this gentleman who did the portrait of Queen Elizabeth years ago. Very talented guy. I love what he's done here. I think it's beautiful. Good for him. Moving on, we have the Duke of Gloucester, who opened the train room at Wild Goose Rural Training and Nature Reserve on April 23rd. Moving on, we have the Duke of Edinburgh, who went to a performance of Fawlty Towers, which is the play at the Hall for Cornwall, and that happened on April 21st, right after the centenary celebrations of his late mother. Moving on, we now have Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. She went to the TenMat Group's Earlham area site. There, she toured their labs, she met all the colleagues, and she discussed why passive fire protection matters worldwide. We're going to move on. It's Anzac Day, held on April 25th every year, the National Day of Remembrance in Australia and New Zealand, commemorating everybody who served and passed away in military operations. It marks the 1915 Gallipoli landing, the first major battle for Australia and New Zealand's Army Corps, the Anzac soldiers, and it symbolizes sacrifice, mateship, and the forging of national identity. So Princess Anne went to commemorate this day at the Day Dawn service at Hyde Park Corner in London. For those of you who wonder, it's always held at dawn. That is the most sacred of the traditions because it reflects the time of the original landing. Apparently it happened at dawn. And so we know it features wreaths, hymns, and the last post. And there are veterans, current serving personnel, and families that march in parades, often wearing medals. Now, a traditional gambling game, which is called Two Up. It's a game played by soldiers at pubs on this day only. You get the Anzac biscuits. It's eaten in reference to the rations that the soldiers received. And of course, you have Lest We Forget, the phrase originating from a recessional poem. It's used to ensure the sacrifice is remembered. That was what Anne did. Catherine also was out. She laid a wreath during the annual wreath-laying ceremony and parade at the Cenotaph in Whitehall, Central London. A little bit more history for you. Anzac Day has been observed in London since King George V attended the very first service at Westminster Abbey in 1916. That, again, marked the anniversary of the landings at Gallipoli. Now, for those of you who don't know, or you see this beautiful wreath that Catherine is laying on behalf of the king, just so you know, the card on it said, "In memory of the Australian and New Zealand soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom." And it was signed by Catherine and William. Now, her doing this on behalf of the king really highlights that she has a heightened role in the national remembrance duties because previously her historic first of laying the wreath on Remembrance Sunday was in November of 2025. So yeah, her duties have definitely stepped up. Now, when that was over, she then went to Westminster Abbey because they were going to be doing a special service there as well. For those of you who don't know, at the start of the service on this day, the flags of New Zealand, Australia, the Republic of Turkey, and the United Kingdom were taken through the Abbey Church and taken up to like the high altar area. There was an address to the congregation. Wreaths were laid at the grave of the unknown warrior by the High Commissioners. Prayers were led by a few different reverends, and the service was sung by the Westminster Abbey Special Services Choir, and they even had somebody there to play the organ. Now, as Catherine was leaving, of course, there were some young children outside. You know how she is. She had to stop and speak to the kids. The kids just absolutely love her, but I think she's doing a great job. Now, one more little bit of history for you, just so that you have it. When the dawn raid started at Gallipoli, by the end of the first day, there were over 2,000 casualties, either killed or wounded. And so that's why they're doing all of this, because they want to honor those who served, with distinction. I think Catherine did a great job for this solo outing, and I think, if I remember correctly, that outfit mirrors one that the Queen wore. I just love her. A big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for showing us what she was wearing, and a big thank you to Carol for also showing us what she was wearing. It's time to move on. Let's move on to our Harry Meghan stuff. It's being reported that Meghan is love bombing Ted Sarandos with Netflix. She's pulling out all the stops ever since their partnership ended and their deal ended and the lifestyle brand ended, that Meghan has apparently been sending a lot of gifts and cards and handwritten letters and jars of jam and flowers. But rather than finding it endearing and thoughtful, they're saying that she's becoming annoying. It comes off as too much. And to be fair, it's not working. It is being reported, however, that this is apparently how Meghan thinks you repair and secure a relationship. Let's move on. Next up, I totally believe this story. They're saying that Meghan had an epiphany and realized that she and Harry would never have control of their own cash, that it would be the king and then ultimately William who would be holding the purse strings for the rest of their lives as working royals. And when she realized William was going to be in charge of how much they were going to get for the rest of their lives, she was like, nope, I'm out of here. Let us not forget that Meghan has very good taste, apparently. Now, I wouldn't say good taste, just expensive taste, because in her first year alone, she spent over $1 million on clothing. But after she married into the family, she apparently realized upon the death of Queen Elizabeth that, William was going to take charge of the Duchy of Cornwall and everything would be in his hands, which is why, for those of you who don't remember, she actually made the suggestion that the duchy should be split between William and Harry. And of course, the royal family was like, no. Moving on, they're wanting, or what they're saying is that Meghan really wants positive online publicity. So to do that, she sent curated gift boxes to influencers in a bid to promote her lifestyle brand. And one of the people that she sent one of these boxes to was her friend Serena Williams. Now there's 2 candles, $63 each, and you had the box of chocolate. The gift, the whole thing is like $155. Well, if I didn't know better, I'd say Serena Williams trolled her, because she holds up this picture and goes, oh, Meghan has always just had the best handwriting. And then she goes to open this chocolate, and it looks like somebody just ripped the box open initially, and she opens it, and it's a mess in the box, and some of the candy has melted together. Look at this. It looks terrible. And she's like, oh yeah, but it's so delicious. And the candles, let's just look at the candles. And I'm telling you, if I didn't know better, I would think that Serena Williams was totally trolling her with this, because why would you put that up, showing the candy a mess and melted together and stuff? It doesn't look good. She didn't even smell the candles. She just held the boxes up. I got to tell you, fans were not impressed, because somebody figured it out. And basically, for her 6-ounce box of the 10 small caramels, you're paying $10 an ounce. Somebody else goes, you know what? I just bought luxury chocolate for my friend and her family from IRC, the oldest chocolatier in the U.S. The packaging was gorgeous, and I didn't pay as much as Markle is charging for a single item. And the family loved the chocolate. I mean, she's insane if she thinks people are going to pay that kind of money. Now, in the meantime, Meghan says she doesn't read social media, but yet, remember, initially the candle said Prince Archie of Sussex and Princess Lilibet of Sussex. Then it just said Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Now, Prince and Princess have been completely removed. Next up, they're trying for some good publicity. So here's what happened. There's an Australian woman living in North Carolina. She flew to Australia for her grandmother's funeral, and she was flying home via Los Angeles, and she got an upgrade to first class on her service. So she sits in her seat, and she was sitting next to Harry for 15 hours, and she put up a picture of her smiling. What I see is that Harry wasn't sitting next to Meghan. They had separated them for some reason. But apparently the woman was crying and she didn't notice who was sitting next to her. And then they started talking and, supposedly he made her feel better. Yeah, whatever. All right, even though things did not go well in Australia, it's being reported that Harry and Meghan are looking to do another tour. This time it's going to be Africa. The scope is going to be big. Think Commonwealth level visibility without the royal stamp. It walks like a royal tour, it talks like a royal tour, and that's the issue. I have to bring something up. Sabira Lohan on Twitter said this, but she's absolutely right. When William went to Saudi Arabia and when he goes around, it was at the request of the government. It's because there was a trade agreement. But Harry and Meghan have been to Jordan, Nigeria, Ukraine, Australia, and he has accomplished absolutely nothing. Neither one of them has. Now, with the state visit coming up, the government in the UK has been urged to issue a statement after the horrible things that Prince Harry said about Donald Trump in his Ukraine speech. I'm not here as a politician. I'm a soldier who understands service, blah, 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 American leadership, blah, blah, blah. I mean, people are telling Charles, you need to put out a statement. It's time for the government to stop this farce. The UK cannot have this loose cannon flying around the world offering views on government policy. And if the royals can't police their own, it's time the state stepped in and put a stop to this. Just to show you how ignorant Harry is, Chris Shipp asked him a question at the end of an interview he did, which we'll be covering in a few minutes. And here's what Harry said.
Do you think any of this is going to have an impact on the big state visit next week?
Any of what?
Any of what you've said here will have an impact on a big state visit?
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, of course, there was going to be backlash. A Russian news anchor, whose name I won't even try to pronounce, said, "This is the prince who was photographed in a Nazi uniform, right? That is him, right? What does any of this have to do with you? Was that your relative," talking about Andrew, "hanging out on Epstein's Island? Who are you? Who gave you the right to discuss these matters? You don't deserve any respect. Why didn't you wear the right uniform when you showed up in Ukraine?" I mean, they are pissed. Now, with all of this and everything Harry said, they're saying it could get uncomfortable for him because, he sort of laid down a challenge for the United States. This isn't going to go well with Trump at all. The MAGA, Make America Great Again movement doesn't like Harry. They don't like Meghan. And so they're going to make things worse in that sense. And now we have the visa issue. Harry is living in the United States under the Trump administration with his wife and his kids. And we know that Heritage Foundation has long been on Harry's case over his immigration status because he admitted in his memoir Spare to the use of marijuana, cocaine, magic mushrooms, and they questioned whether he had disclosed this information when he was immigrating to the country or whether he got preferential treatment. And if the U.S. president was not enough, he wasn't Harry's only target. Again, Putin. But here's the point. If Harry got a waiver to come in, because other people that used cocaine 10 years earlier aren't allowed in. They want to know who gave him the waiver, which means he got preferential treatment, or did he lie and not admit to the drugs? That's what people want to know. Now, whenever Harry gets into trouble, he reverts back to his mother, and Chris Shipp asked him a question. Listen to this.
Talking about Halo Trust, I saw you in Angola when you retraced your mother's footsteps. In your speech yesterday, you reflected some of her words. You said, "I'm not a politician, I'm a humanitarian," and in your case, a soldier. I mean, this charity and what it's doing here, it just means so much to you, and you have such a connection to it because of your mother and 1997.
So then Harry launches into a whole thing. Here's just a little bit of it.
Ukraine, to see how the Halo Trust is relying on modern technologies, Robots, AI, drones to speed up the process for demining and finding munitions that are scattered all over this country. Back in the day, nearly 30 years ago when my mother was in Angola, Halo Trust were on hands and knees clearing landmines. But the improvements and the ability to clear minefields faster is extraordinary.
Now, I'm sorry. He goes on for like a whole minute and a half, and quite frankly, the sound of his voice is like nails going down a chalkboard. So then Harry decides he's going to walk through a minefield to show people, just like his mother did. Here's the thing. First of all, Diana walked through an actual minefield in Angola. Harry, however, this time walked through a already cleared path, which we knew because he wasn't wearing the blast shield and the headgear and all that other stuff. But every other time he's walked through one of these minefields, guess what? It's been fake too. I've shown you that before. But every time there's backlash for something with his wife or the children, he diverts straight to talking about his mother. Harry said during the visit that the ongoing humanitarian clearance was the very thing he was born to do, and he played with the drones and stuff. But Britannia Royal on Twitter said something that was very interesting. According to them, Harry is an investor, and Meghan, they are investors in fossil fuel, and that they're actually profiting directly from the war. Moving on to another part of the interview that was given to Chris Shipp, who appears to be a squatty, Harry said this.
Harry, do you recognise that phrase, not a working royal? I mean, it strikes me, you're obviously from the royal family, you're here doing a trip, bringing attention to a really important cause that risks being forgotten. Do you recognise that description of you?
No, I will always be part of the royal family, and I'm here working and doing the very thing that I was born to do. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being able to do these trips and come and support the people that I've met before, the friends that I've made.
Now, it appears to me that Harry is throwing the gauntlet down to his family, trying to get them to react because he needs some content. So if they respond, yeah. But wasn't it just a few years ago he was saying this?
6 a.m. on the 14th of March, and we are on the Freedom Flight. We are leaving Canada and we are headed to Los Angeles.
Then while he was in Australia, he said, I don't want this role. It killed my mother. And right after the cancer diagnosis of his father and sister-in-law, he gave an interview and they asked him how he felt about what was going on with the royal family. Remember, he said this?
Being in California, how have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family where you come from?
I have my own family,
right?
So as we all do,
yeah.
Right? So, my family and my life in California is as it is.
The truth is, as Shauna Kay said on Twitter, if Harry was born to do royal work, you don't walk away from it. The monarchy is not a part-time hobby for a self-indulgent, basically an idiot. He wants back in, they won't let him back in, so he has now carved out for himself the half-in, half-out life that everybody's told him he can't have. And unless the royal family takes some sort of action, this is never going to stop. The UK media are saying that the British government will not approve a visit for the war-torn nation by William, so that gives Harry a unique opportunity to gain headlines, and also his appearances in Ukraine, of course, coincide with key UK diplomatic moments, and they're deliberate. He's already said, since I'm not working with the royal family, I don't have to worry about my diary. Now, even Talk TV had a call in from a viewer. I want you to hear what this viewer said because I think he speaks for a lot of people. Listen to this.
Kevin, I'm just trying to keep my cool about Harry. I think it's a complete disgrace. I am so angry. Let me try and explain. Just allow me a little bit of time, please.
Please.
Here is an individual born into royalty, lucky so-and-so, has and had everything. He is not the only person to have lost his mother. My God, a disgrace. They wanted to get out of the royal family. They got out, and all they've done since is stick their rotten snouts back into this country.
Yeah.
Nobody wants them. He is trashing his own family, and by trashing his own family, Kevin, he's trashing the actual monarchy and the heritage and values of this great country. Charles really's got to get a grip. I like Charles. I'm supportive of him. But, Kevin, I'm afraid he appears very weak. He needs to immediately remove those titles.
Agreed.
Let me digress. When Harry was in Bucha, he stopped at a memorial dedicated to residents of the community who were killed by Russians. So, of course, they had to take a professional photographer with them. And if you'll notice, the only people behind Harry is his security. I'm assuming this happened the next day, but while Harry was still there, he met with members of the National Guard's 12th Special Forces Brigade, and they gave him and Meghan jewelry. Well, of course, it says love is care because they have ongoing advocacy for Ukraine. No, they really don't. But this is just Harry showing up again. He needs good press. He needs something. He needs to knock the royals off the newspaper. I mean, after all, it's Anzac Day. So Harry's running around collecting free gifts. They did that in Australia. Now he's doing it in Ukraine. He's hanging out with these people that used to be part of the Invictus team for, Ukraine. And he, goes back with his message on war and leadership. But can somebody give me an example of any real change that he and Meghan have been able to effect? Any at all? Because I haven't been able to find any. And I've really looked. He goes then and he lays some roses on the grave of the unknown Ukrainian servicemen at the National War Memorial Cemetery on Friday. And of course, that was done because of Anzac Day. Of course, he brought the professional photographer. He makes sure that they caught the picture from multiple angles. He made sure to wear his little medals from his grandmother. I mean, at what point does somebody say, oh my God, it's enough? You guys know I want your comments on this. Oh my God, make them good. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my father's book, which remains up for sale on Amazon, a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.